Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amber. Today we're talking about fall recommendations for the first part of this video. The second part will be what's on my fall TBR. So with that being said, we have a lot of books to get through, so I'm not going to be doing like a synopsis on any of these books, but I am putting them in order of like all the adult fantasy and adult romances will come first, then we'll go into YA. And then I only have a few like classic books, dark academia and stuff like that, mystery thrillers. I really don't have a lot of ones that I've read because that's not my typical genre. It's ones that I'm trying to get more into. So a lot of those are going to be more so on like my TBR. But without further ado, let's just get into this. We're starting off with adult fantasy books. The first one is We Shall Be Monsters by Alyssa Weiss. I got this as a ARC on NetGalley. This one comes out November 12th of this year, so it's kind of like a later fall. But this one, it's considered adult fantasy, but it really reads more so like a YA fantasy. There's no spice in this whatsoever. It's more so about like following your journey of like a mother and daughter kind of finding understanding in each other. That one I ended up giving I think 3.5 stars. It was a good read. It gave really good fall ambiance. It just wasn't really necessarily for me. Then we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. That one I think I gave 4 stars. Definitely reads as adult fantasy. There's plenty of spice scenes from what I'm remembering, but I think it took like later in the book. That one, again, I have mixed feelings on it. That one's a Kindle Unlimited, and it's more so just like some of the things that are said are just, you know? Like, it was good. I liked the plot. The main male character, I like to an extent. I'll read the rest of the series. We'll leave it at that. I'm gonna read the rest of the series, but some of the writing is just a little out there. Next is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This is Norse mythology. Pick this up. 5 stars. Loved this book. It's not necessarily like set in fall or anything, but for some reason, like when I think Norse mythology, it just really gives me fall feelings, okay? Then we have Bound by Ravens by Jessica Sundin. I'll put underneath if it was Kindle Unlimited because I honestly can't remember now if I paid for that or if it was Kindle Unlimited. But this is part of like, I think they're all standalone, but they're all set in the same world. I really did enjoy that one. I remember I gave that one either 4 or 4.5 stars. They're kind of on the shorter end, just fun little fall read. It's not necessarily set in fall, but again, it just gave me fall feelings when I was reading it. Then we have, of course, ACOTAR. I think the main reason is just one, I enjoy fantasies the most in fall. They just all, I don't care what time they're set in, they all give me fall feelings. But I think the main thing that really draws this one to fall for me is just that's when I read this book, and the series is like what got me back into reading. So I just hardcore relate ACOTAR to fall. Like every fall I want to do a reread. I'm not kidding you, I'm fighting the urge again to do a reread on this, and I probably will. So yeah. Then we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Again, it's just, I started this in the fall, I think, when I first read this series, and again, adult fantasy just screams fall for me every single time. But yeah, if you haven't picked this one up, you should do it now. Then we have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is Kindle Unlimited. Dragons, really good banter. I enjoyed the characters' chemistry, but mainly just like the dragons in this. Again, it's just solely because it's fantasy that's making me say fall. But yeah, I recommend this one. Then we have A Fallen Sword by Kaven Herning. This one is, again, like loosely based on D&D, but I've talked about that book a lot. I really enjoyed that. That one got 4.5 stars. I believe the next book in the series is coming out fairly soon. If I remember correctly, I think that's what I saw her put on Instagram. Anyway, that one's not Kindle Unlimited, but it's not super expensive on Kindle either. I think it's like $4.99, somewhere around there. I'll put that underneath the picture of that. But again, that one is one of the stronger fantasy books that make me think fall. It's really good. Highly recommend it. Really fun read. each character had such a unique personality to them, and the way that they all interacted with each other was so fun. Really enjoyed that. Then we have Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I know that technically this is, I believe, considered a YA fantasy. I refuse to accept that at all. I will never categorize this as YA fantasy because maybe, I don't really remember the first one. Maybe the first one does read more YA, but I'm telling you that the last two don't at all. They were not closed door spice scenes. No, that's, to me, I'll put this into perspective. If you haven't read this, but you've read ACOTAR, it's like calling A Court of Silver Flames YA. Okay? You wouldn't do it. No. That's like, honestly, it's really just like calling anything after ACOTAR. I think that those two are kind of on the same basis because I'm pretty sure ACOTAR is considered YA, is it not? Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it's kind of like the first one where, I mean, there's a couple things hinted, but nothing really goes into detail. But the rest of the series, no. So anyway, I'm categorizing this as adult fantasy. Witches, vampires, demons, princes of hell. Really anything that you can think of that makes you think of Halloween is in this book. So, not my favorite series, but I think maybe I was just in a mood in that time period. I was kind of in a reading slump, so maybe that's what a lot of that stems from. I feel like a lot of people would enjoy that. So, next up, we have For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. I will pretty much only recommend reading this duology in the fall. This is like a loose Red Riding Hood retelling, but it's done in such a unique and fun way. I'm in the middle of reading the second one. I kind of put it down for a little bit because I wanted it to be more fall when I read that. But it's got like Shadowlands, the dark grim woods. I mean, yeah, fall. Fall for these. Really fun retelling. Yeah, I wouldn't expect like a take on it the way it is, and I really loved it. Highly recommend this one. Next up, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Again, dragons, war college, high stakes. I feel like most people have heard of Fourth Wing at this point. Again, I'll recommend this in fall because it hits different if you read it in the fall. Next up, I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. That's Kindle Unlimited. Another one that has vampires. I don't know if there's any other type of, I haven't read that one in a while, so I don't fully remember everything about it, but it's kind of like the Hunger Games with vampires, and I know that the other series is like about to be released or just got released that is focusing on a different like vampire group, because I don't remember the name of them. I think it's like Bloodborne, Shadowborn, and something else. I could be completely butchering that also. I really remember like next to nothing about that. But that one's another good one for fall. What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods. It's another Kindle Unlimited. Again, I really don't remember much about that. I know that there's at least 4 books out for that series, and I do remember and really enjoying the first 2, liking the third, and I DNF'd the 4th, but it's like a soft DNF. I plan on going back for that. But again, it's the Fae getting dragged into the other world, but there were a lot of like twists in it that I didn't fully expect, so that one's a good series to get into. Then we have Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I remember I didn't really like it. It's more so kind of reminds me of like a cozy fall read. It's centered on like witches, but it's more so about like the witch going back, or maybe she's human and she like meets a witch. I don't really remember exactly how it goes, but she goes back to her hometown, and it's more so just like her finding herself when she's back there. So really like a cozy read versus any type of true like fantasy, high stakes, even low stakes, nothing like that. Then we have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This one is basically almost like a diary format of Dracula's wife. This was a very interesting read. I did really enjoy this, but again, I think I read it out of season because I gave this either 3.5 or 4 stars. I don't know. I just feel like I should have really read this in the fall, and I think I read this more towards like the winter time. But definitely look up the trigger warnings on this, because if I remember correctly, there is just like emotional abuse. I don't really remember if there's like physical abuse, but I also think I remember there being like some sexual assault in here. But yeah, definitely check the trigger warnings for this one. Then we have King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This one was weird because if I remember correctly, the first one's on Kindle Unlimited, the second one's not. Maybe that's changed by now because I did read this last year. But again, I think this one has vampires. I don't really remember anything else being in there. This was another one where I enjoyed the first one. I wanted to read the second one. I got about halfway through and I ended up DNFing it, and I'm still not really sure if I'll ever go back to it, just because I felt like the first one had quite a bit of focus on the plot and the second one just did not. I felt like that one focused a lot more on the romance aspect, and not even really the romance aspect. It just really was like every other page there was a sex scene. So I ended up DNFing that, and I really don't know if I'll ever go back to it. Next up is The Stars Are Dying by Chloe C. Penaranda. I think this one's Kindle Unlimited too, but I mean, how could you not want to buy this one when it has art like that inside of it? Anyway, I remember really enjoying the first half of this, and my problem with it was I really felt like there were a lot of, which again, maybe I was just being picky, but it felt like so many very popular books just mashed into this. And when I say that, I mean like really key points of popular books mashed into this, which the more books that come out, the more they're gonna start bleeding together. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of do plan on going back and maybe reading the second one. I think maybe I was just being a little too picky that day. Next up is the adult romance portion. These ones, I read every single one of them on my Kindle. So we have Bride by Allie Hazelwood. This is a paranormal adult romance. I gave that one 4.5 stars, and honestly, I probably would change that to a 5 because I still think about that book all the time. Like, I still debate on going back and rereading that again. Such a fun read. Loved the characters' banter, loved their chemistry, everything about that book. Then we have Grimstone by Sophie Lark. This one is set in like this grim, dark town, so it is very strongly fall vibes. It wasn't my favorite read. I think I gave that 3 stars. I was definitely split down the middle of whether I liked it or not. Then we have Death's Obsession by Avina St. Graves. This one, I don't remember if he was the devil or no, I think he was the Grim Reaper. It's like their whole romance. Not my favorite. It was decent. It's not a super long read, so if you're looking for something like that, maybe pick that one up. But again, I think that one you might want to check the trigger warning. Then last up, we have Autumn of the Grimoire by J.L. Vampa. That one's on Kindle Unlimited. That one I really, really enjoyed, and it's following these 4 sisters that are all witches, but they all kind of have like their own season to them. But it definitely had like a really good balance between the plot and the romance that was in it, and I loved the main male love interest. I loved their like chemistry and dynamic. So again, I highly recommend that one. The second book, I believe, is focused on the sister that's like the winter season, so I think I'll probably pick that book up this winter, but highly recommend that one for a fall read. That one's Kindle Unlimited, but the book to that is really, really pretty. Okay, next up we're getting into YA. I'm going to start off with YA fantasy, and first up on that list is, if you've watched my channel recently, no shocker to it, is Belladonna, the trilogy. There is going to be a little novella. I just saw that announcement on this, but the main 3 books are done. I can't recommend the series enough. It's got the dark, grim atmosphere that really sets it off for fall. A romantasy with mystery in it. I just can't recommend this trilogy enough. Next up, we have Autumn's Tithe by Hannah Parker. This one reminds me a ton of ACOTAR. I had a fun time reading this. I think I gave it 4 stars, but it does remind me a lot of ACOTAR. So if you're looking for something that kind of gives you those feels, pick this one up. And again, this will come as no surprise, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. It's just really like the magical feel of this world, just screams fall. Again, if you have not picked this up, this is probably like my #1 series that I will shove in your face and tell you need to read. Because it's so fun, it's so magical. The main male love interest, everything about it, perfection. Then we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is set in the same world as Once Upon a Broken Heart, but you're focusing on different characters, but some of the characters from here are in this a little bit, and you kind of get a little bit of a backstory from some of them. So again, I know that this one kind of has like mixed things, like people will really love Once Upon a Broken Heart, but they either won't read this or they say it's not as fun. But I honestly had just as much fun reading this trilogy as I did Once Upon a Broken Heart. And I do kind of wish I would have read this trilogy first. There is a little novella set in this world coming out called Spectacular, which I think comes out next month, November, and I can't wait to read that. Seriously, these two trilogies, can't recommend enough. Then I have the Cruel Prince trilogy by Holly Black. Again, this is set in like a fairy realm. Our main female character is one of my favorite main female characters of all time. I love this trilogy. Again, it's another one that every fall I really want to go back and read. There is like a little novella that is, what is it called? Oh, The King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, which it's a super short little novella that was a really fun read and gave you more of a backstory on Cardan and kind of why he is the way he is, which I really enjoyed. So if you haven't read that one, but you've read this trilogy, I do recommend going back and reading that. Or if you haven't read this trilogy, I would start with that one and then kind of go into this. But again, another one that I can't recommend enough. This is like a 5-star series for me. Then we have the Stolen Heir duology by Holly Black. This one, you're following Oak, which is Jude's younger brother, but it's when he's older. So it's still in the same world as Elfhame. I really didn't enjoy this duology as much as I did the Cruel Prince, but that's kind of just a me thing, I think, because I see a lot of people love this duology. So again, another one perfect for fall. Just the way that Holly Black wrote like the fairy realm in there is very like dark, grim, but also like magical. It just really puts you in that world. Next up is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I think this one's Kindle Unlimited too, which the first two in this series, in this trilogy, is out along with the novella Powerful. I personally didn't really care for Powerless all that much. I liked it. I was really split down the middle. It just, I don't know. I just didn't really care for like our female main character all that much. I don't know. I don't really... The longer I go without reading it, I really can't pinpoint what exactly it was that I didn't love, but I did end up rating Reckless, I think 4.5 stars. I did really enjoy that one, which I know most people are flipped. They really enjoyed this one, but they didn't really care for the second one all that much. I don't know. Again, it's just a really good fall read because it's just the higher stakes fantasy with the romance involved in it. And we're back. Then I have the Dance of Thieves duology by Mary E. Pearson. This was such a fun duology. This is pretty much, I'd say like a 4.5, maybe even a 5-star duology for me. I loved every single character that was in here, all of their dynamics together. The slow burn and like subtle romance that was in here was really fun. Perfect for fall. Yeah, I really recommend this one. I'm pretty sure I read both of these, which they're both about as thick as each other, in like a 2.5 day time span, which for me is very fast because usually it takes me like a week just to finish one book. Anyway, then I have the One Dark Window duology by Rachel Gillig. Again, another very dark and grim atmosphere, super interesting plot behind it. The whole entire premise of like these Providence cards that give you powers if you're the holder of it was super interesting. And in the main character, there's like a monster living in her head, and there's like a subtle plot of romance in both of them, and both main male characters I really enjoyed. Can't recommend this one enough either. Then we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've only read the first one, and I'm about 60% of the way through the second one. I'm listening to it on audio, and I really am enjoying the series. It's a YA mystery, and I love all of like the puzzles that they put in there. The only complaint that I have with this series is the love triangle is getting old already. But overall, I did really enjoy the first one. I am enjoying the second one. So again, it's another really good like YA mystery for the fall. Then I have Curse of the Wolf King, which again is a Kindle Unlimited, and this one's by Cassandra Odette. This is it's part of a series, but they're all standalones, and each one is like a fairy tale retelling. This one, I believe it was Beauty and the Beast. Pretty sure Beauty and the Beast was this one. But again, really fun, enjoyable read. They don't take long to get through, and I love a good fairy tale retelling. and I feel like they're always perfect for fall. Then we have The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Myers. I read this one back in like 9th or 10th grade, I think, and I absolutely loved it. I think I've read each book probably 2 or 3 times now. This one's like a dystopian fairy tale retelling, and again, each one is like a different fairy tale retelling, but they all kind of connect to each other. So I wouldn't really call them standalones, but the first one is like a Cinderella retelling, and that one, the girl is like a cyborg girl. It's just a super interesting take on fairy tale retellings. They're all dystopian, very cool and futuristic, very techy. I really enjoyed that series. I highly recommend that one. Then we have Ruined by Paula Morris. This is like a paranormal romantasy. This one, I'm not kidding you, I've read this book at least 7 times. I'm not exaggerating. When I really enjoy a book, I hyperfixate on them, and it's a real problem. I read this one back in like 8th grade, and it became like an every single year thing that I reread. I haven't read it in a while, but I'm not kidding you, this thing has been through it. But anyway, this one is set in New Orleans. I'm not gonna give much other than that, but it's set in New Orleans. It has a really interesting like storyline behind it, of the main character being able to talk to ghosts. And you kind of get like Mean Girl vibes from some of the other characters too. That was just really enjoyable. Then Dark Souls, also by Paula Morris. That one's part of a duology, I think, but they're like standalones. But again, another fun, just kind of like mildly spooky read. Then it should come as no surprise that I'm gonna say Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. It is what it is. It's fall. Who doesn't think of Twilight when it comes to fall? And then I have I don't remember if I said this one now. I think I skipped this one on accident. Then I have Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. I got this one in a blind date with a book, and I have never been happier about that because I truly enjoyed this book so much. It is a YA fantasy with a very mild subplot of romance, but this has like witches, but it definitely goes into like necromancy. So many things I didn't see coming from this book. This was a very fun read. I do have the second one on my Kindle, and I just always forget about it. I do really want to read that one this year, but again, I do highly recommend this one because this was a very, very fun read. And then I don't think I still have the book, but it's Time of Witches by Anna Myers. Again, that's one that I haven't read since like 8th or 9th grade. It's been a very long time, but I remember it being a very fun read. It is set in Salem. I think there's like a subplot of romance in that one too, but again, I just remember when I read it, I absolutely loved it, and it is perfect for fall time. Then for Dark Academia, and I really don't know if this is truly considered that, but A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. I gave this one either 3 or 3.5 stars. It wasn't necessarily for me, but I know a lot of people did really enjoy it. That one was definitely an interesting read with twists that I didn't fully expect, and it had like a subplot of romance, but it was kind of like rivals to lovers, I want to say. There was plenty of mystery in there. It was an interesting read. Then for classics, I really only have 2 that I could think of that I've read that like fit fall time. I mean, I've really only read like 5 or 6 classics, but for fall time, I would say Withering. How do you say that? Don't come at me if I say this wrong. I'm gonna say Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It's been a while. It's been probably like 6 years since I've read this, and I really don't remember much about it. I remember really enjoying it when I read it, but with how many books I've read since, I really don't know how I would feel about this now. But I remember I read it in the fall, and it felt like the perfect time to read it. So I don't know, maybe one day I'll go back and read it, but it's not gonna be anytime soon. And then I also have The Stranger by Albert Campus. Again, this has been 8 years since I read that one, so I couldn't even tell you anything about it, like at all. That one, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't remember why I put that one in here. Maybe that one doesn't belong here. I don't know. I'm gonna leave this in the video. Maybe someone else will be like, yeah, that would be perfect for fall, but now I don't really remember why I put it in here. Anyway, now we're going on to my personal TBR of all the books I want to read in fall that, to me, come across as fall reads. Now this one's not going to be set by like categories because honestly I have a list here that I'll loosely follow, and I'll probably like tell you what they are underneath. Looking on my TBR shelf, I found a bunch more that I feel like fit fall really well. So we're just gonna get into it. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know if this is this considered, I think this is considered dark academia. Then I have The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. I know that this one is like paranormal, just seems like something that should be in fall. Then I have Starling House by Alex E. Harrell. I think I recently saw that this one's now on Kindle Unlimited, but again, I think this is like a haunted house that she ends up getting. Then I have Night of the Witch by Sarah Rosh and Beth Revis. Oh hey, I didn't even know. That actually makes me a lot more excited to read this, knowing that I really enjoyed this one by her. I just saw this one on Amazon and ended up buying it like last year and then never ended up reading it. So this one kind of gets put up higher on my TBR now that I know that I've read another book by her that I really enjoy. Another one that's on my TBR is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I mean, that the title alone. Then I have The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. I've been putting this off for so long and I really want to get to this soon. Then we have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I know a lot of people say if you like ACOTAR you'll enjoy this one, so it's another one I really want to get to. And An Enchantment of Ravens, also by Margaret Rogerson. This one's a pretty short one, so I feel like I'll get to this one soon, but I remember this one has Fae in it, and she like can paint people's emotions in the pictures, but Fae aren't supposed to have emotions, so that sounded super interesting. Then this one is The Alice 6 by Olivia Blake. I think this one's dark academia also, but I'm not positive. Then we have The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I don't really remember much about this. I think there's witches in this. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but the cover of this gives me fall. Then we have The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Mueller. Again, I don't really remember anything about this, but the front says a dark gothic whodunit, so I'm there. Then we have Belle Morte by Bella Higgins. This one's vampires. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, which I feel like this might be like a mild mystery. Then The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. I don't really know much about this, but the cover gives fall, so. Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. This one, I'm not gonna lie, was a very impulsive buy at Barnes & Noble, and I really don't even know if I'll ever read it, but it's witches and romance, so. Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I have started this book before, and I think I got like 100 or 90 pages in, and I soft DNF'd it, because I just really wasn't feeling it, but this one has a very dark, grim atmosphere with an older witch somewhere in the mix. So then we have The Only One Left by Riley Sager, mystery. I don't know why this just makes me want to pick it up more so in the fall. I mean, really truly every mystery makes me want to pick it up more so in the fall, but this one just really makes me want to pick it up in the fall. Then I have One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This is witches set in like modern Manhattan. So then we have Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. This one I know is YA, but I mean, look at the cover, that screams fall. Then we have The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I've been putting this book off for probably like 3 years now, so there's that. And again, dragons fall. Then again, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Usually about this time of the year, I'm rewatching all the movies, but I told myself that I was going to read these before watching the movies, and I still haven't gotten around to that. So then we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This one is like a whimsical, like Bridgerton meets Fae. This one would be like a lighter cozy. Then for the books that I don't own and I want to read, The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I really don't know anything about that one. It's just the cover seems fall to me. Then Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed. Again, I know nothing about it, but I saw on a list on Goodreads that said perfect for fall. So I was sold and I really liked the cover of it, so I went with it. Then I have Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I have that on my Kindle. It is a Kindle Unlimited. I'll get to that soon. That's like one that is high up on my TBR. Then we have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I don't really remember what the synopsis said about that, but again, it gives me fall vibes, and I just got it for, I think, $1 or $2 on my Kindle, so I bought it. Then these two are romances. Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chipman. It is a Kindle Unlimited. I did just download that. I believe that one has quite a bit of spice in it, if I remember correctly. Then The X-Hack by Aaron Sterling. Again, I see people read this every single year for the fall, and I just never get around to it. Then I have Trust of the Emerald Sea. That is one that I've had on my Kindle. Again, I bought that. I think I got it for like $2 one day. It was on sale, and so I just impulsively bought it. That one's by Brandon Sanderson. It's a standalone. I see a lot of people say that it is a very kind of like lighter fantasy read. So I'll get to that one eventually. And then these two are two cozy fantasies. I personally have not really read. I don't know if I've read any cozy fantasies at all. So I don't really know if that genre is for me. I kind of like things to have more like higher stakes in them when it comes to fantasy. But I'm gonna give them a shot this year. And that's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Probably borrow that from my local library on my Kindle. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. We'll see. And then I also want to read Legends and Lattes by Travis Balder. Again, that's like, I feel like that is a staple book when it comes to cozy fantasy. And I really want to read that. And I'm going to try and get to that this year. But I have so many books on my TBR that I don't even know where to start. So, another one that I have on my TBR that I'm probably going to start like in the next couple days is Phantasma. I don't remember who that's by, so I'll put the picture right here, but that's a Kindle Unlimited book that I have on my Kindle currently. And I know that one is a lot of spice. I've seen a lot of things about it lately. And then also one that I'm currently reading, and it's definitely kind of like a cozier fantasy. I have the arc to it, but I believe it comes out the end of this month. Yeah, so it's Impractical Magic by Emily Grimoire. Yeah, that one comes out October 1st. This one says Gilmore Girls meets Charm, which I'm definitely getting that vibe from it. I'm about 30% of the way through, and I have really been enjoying it. It has a lot of interesting aspects to it. I've gotten bored a little bit because I feel like I'm 30% of the way in and not really much has happened. There's a lot of like filler, random conversations that I don't really understand. But overall, I have been enjoying it. So if you're looking for more of like a relaxing, like witchy romance, I would recommend this. It's Grumpy Sunshine, Slow Burn, cozy small town, and I believe it's like a mild second chance, but they never really dated. So it's kind of like childhood friends to lovers, I guess you would call it. But yeah, so far it's a pretty enjoyable read, but I am only 30% of the way through, so I'm not really gonna give it like a definitive how I'm feeling about it yet, because I feel like I really haven't read enough to fully give a good solid thing to it, okay? Anyway, that's all the books that I have for you guys though. Let me know down below what your guys' fall TBR is and like what your books that you want to read the most are, because I'm sure there are books that are like coming out that I didn't even see. But yeah, I always love adding more things to my TBR even when I don't need to. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I have for you today. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all my future videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!